When I was a kid, the first knife, the first practical knife that I was exposed to was my papa's Barlow folding knife. And I always thought, man, that sucker's cool. I seen him use it a few times, and very utilitarian. And I thought, I want to get me a knife. I mean, I was probably 2-3 years old at that time, and I wanted a knife. Well, the first knife I ever got, I went down to, I believe it was Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, when I was a little one. Couldn't have been, but I don't know, 5 or 6. I had been to Gatlinburg many times before that, but we went to some type of a, I remember exactly where it was now. It was Chattanooga, Lookout Mountain. And we went to the top of the mountain. There was a tourist attraction store there where you could buy little trinkets. And they had a little lock blade. And actually, it wasn't even a lock blade. It was just a regular folding knife. Folding pocket knife that said something about Lookout Mountain on it. And if I look hard enough, if the fire didn't get it, I think I probably still have that little knife. And that was my first pocket knife. Then I moved up and I got the Buck, is it the 110? The Buck 110. But anyway, everybody who has ever seen a lock blade knife, there is no other knife that is more looked at as being the standard than the Buck knife. And I'm talking about the one with the brass bolsters on each end and the wood handle in the middle and the locking button on the back, on the top of it. Those were pretty good knives, but I'll tell you what, I've busted 3-4 of them maybe over the many years that I've used them, because I work a knife pretty hard. And that to me in those days was the standard. And how far we've come is a company founded by a guy who's a true American patriot, who believes in American values the way that they're supposed to be. I mean, ultimate quality, the best in the world, blatant, rude, if you will, for anybody who takes offense, glad to offend. This guy's name is Lynn Thompson, and he started a company called Cold Steel. And in the 80s, when I was younger, I used to watch his videos. His infomercials would be on TV where he had his American Tonto knife, which was basically a ninja-style Japanese point, like a chisel point knife. But Lynn redesigned the taper on the blade, the grind on the blade for the point. The grind on the point for Lynn's design is the most attractive thing about the knife, other than being, extremely durable. And I seen him cutting through rope and pounding it through car doors and car hoods, and just indestructible. So that made an impression upon me when I started buying knives, to use for work, and the many uses you can have with a knife. But when I got it into doing landscaping again, the last 2-3 years, I figured I'm just going to get a machete, to help clear out areas and, make quick work of stuff. As long as the machete is sharp, it's not going to fray limbs and whatnot. It'll make clean slices. Well, then enter Cold Steel and this job that I have in Florida. And let me tell you, this place was a frickin' jungle all the way around. There was no looking through these trees like we are right now. None of that. It was completely overrun, overgrown, and neglected for years. I'm talking 10 years of growth in a state like this that I just had some kind of a creature up here. In a state like this that never has a downtime for seasonal growth. You have many crops as you want in Florida. It's always warm enough to grow. And that's how the trees and the brush and everything else reacts. But I learned that cold steel, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, I've had a lot of great knives. I got a Puma, a handmade German Puma, Spyderco, Benchmade, whatever. Let me tell you something. When it comes to durability, to the locking mechanism withstanding a beating like you would never believe, like I would never put my old buck knives through. It'd be gone like the first 5 minutes. Cold steel is the king of all kings. You can pay a lot more. You can have whatever reputation you want as a knife collector. But as far as I'm concerned, if it doesn't have the Andrew Demko triad lock and it doesn't say cold steel on it, chances are it's junk. No matter if you paid $300 for the knife, it's junk. Unless and until you can prove the lock strength against the Andrew Demko design cold steel triad lock. And I'll tell you what, when you get into stuff like this, where this whole time that I've been down here, man, I've been chopping limbs, I've been chopping vines, I've been doing all this stuff. Any type of vine that you see hanging, anything, I chopped it all with this here. I'll show you some of this work. This is something else. Here's a couple little vines right here, you know. You can get right in there, just tear stuff up. I don't know where that big one went. But I mean, I have literally beat on this thing constantly. I mean, abuse, just abuse, working the piss out of this knife. And this knife, the lock on it, the blade, there is zero side-to-side movement. There is zero front-to-back movement. I can't believe it. I just cannot believe how strong this thing is. And it's got the Grivex handles. You know, it's not G10. It's some type of a polymer. But it's not what you'd say plastic. I guess technically it is plastic. But the plastic that I'm used to, there is no way it'd hold up like this. But that triad lock is just incredible. Folks, if you're looking for a durable knife, that probably buy it now. I don't think anybody out there is going to use a knife as hard as me, especially in landscaping and clearing 3 acres with a pocket knife, basically. You just can't go wrong with Cold Steel. It's an American company. They're building their products in Taiwan for now. They do have their custom shop here in the States, where if you get a lot of stuff that's made with their Sanmai 3 steel, which is a laminate steel with the real hard, brittle stuff on the outside for the edge and the flexible stuff in the center. If you get stuff like that, there's a lot of it that's made here in the States. A lot of the custom Demko stuff, like the some of his designs that, you know, they'll bring in and make in-house. But let me tell you, this is the Cold Steel Rajah 2. And basically it's a kukri blade, kukri style blade. And I'll tell you, the whole time I've been using this knife, you can grip it right here, and this is probably where most people would be gripping it. You can also come up here. There is a cutout right here for your finger, so you can choke up on it like that to use it. But I have been using it 90% of the time on this little one right here, right there. And what I do is I got my middle finger locked in there, index up here, thumb up here, and then I just put a little lanyard on the bottom of it. I collect that with my pinky. So I've got some control and stability with it. But I have been using it like this the whole time, and I got all kinds of leverage. And generally, if I'm not holding the phone and I'm doing something, and my aim is good, and I'm keeping the blade good and straight for cutting, it'll knock stuff off in one whack. I mean, I know I've done this here before, but I'll tell you what, this bamboo and stuff, this is trademark Cold Steel video stuff here. And I'm telling you, if I'm not holding this phone, I'm knocking this stuff off in one whack. I mean, there's no debate about it. I'm doing it. It's happening all day, every day for the last 3 weeks out here. And I'll tell you, landscaping that's the men from boys separation type of work. So, cold steel products, I absolutely believe in Lynn Thompson and his philosophy. I love people like him. I tell you, Lynn Thompson is the Trump of the knife world. And man, I'll tell you, it's just a good thing that you can spend a little bit of money on a product that will last you a lifetime and do all that service without regard to most abuse. I'm sure I can break this knife. Anybody can break anything, but I'll tell you what, I've beat the piss out of this thing, and I'm not even halfway joking. So incredibly pleased with my cold steel knives, and I've got like 2 or 3 now. So just a FYI for all you knife people out there. Take care.